Welcome, welcome. So we got a lot of things to talk about, so let's just get to it. A lot of crazy things. Interesting. So I guess we'll start with private prisons um, cashing in on refugees. So the center, and dude, I think from what I read, dude, the abbreviation of the state was Texas. Um, yeah, dude, I'm pretty positive. Someone wants to pull up the article on their phone real quick and check. I'm pretty sure it was Texas. It's called the Dilly Center. 2,000 migrant women and children are being taken in, and they're getting money. Now, from what I know, that depending on the prison and where it's at, they get 45 to 100 bucks a day per inmate. Um, Now, when it comes to housing board, I know they go real cheap. Like some of the meals only cost like 17 cents. So a lot of that is being siphoned into their own pockets. So I guess we'll just start with that shit because I think that's kind of fucked up. Um, if you're gonna take them in, you kind of need to do it differently than that instead of getting paid. That's really really greedy, and it kind of shows you how private prisons run. And also, by the way, it's run by the Corrections Corporation of America, which is the largest private prison company. So, yeah, it is Texas. Whew, that's awesome. So, if anyone wants to hop in on that, and I think it's just fucked up, man. Go for it.
I mean, yeah, dude, that's a pretty fucked up situation considering how much they already make off of prison inmates and how much they already fucking are making off of basically imprisoning people. So just to add on to that, that's like, I mean, how much money are they actually fucking making, you know? It's a lot of fucking money. A lot of money.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is what were those statistics based off of? Were they based off of the rate of an inmate, and are these people being treated as inmates?
No, no, no.
So
They say
so they feel like they are. So I mean, I guess it kind of depends on whether or not you feel like these inmates have the ability to integrate into society and find their own means of home, on board, and employment and care. Otherwise, it would fall on the Texan citizens to find room and board for these refugees that are coming in. I mean, yeah, I think it's kind of messed up that they're having to live in a prison, but they know they're not prisoners. The other thing is they're where else are they going to go? Do we have the facilities to take care of these people? I guess they're taking advantage of the system, and I guess they're taking advantage of their kind of crisis. But on the other hand, we're up in arms about them putting them in prisons. But where would we like to put them? Are we opening our doors to invite them into our homes? Um, there's not a lot of people out there that are in Texas because I know a lot of people are standing behind Greg Abbott when he refused to bring Syrian refugees into Texas. Me currently, I don't believe that we should have Syrian refugees in the United States, much less Texas. Um, but that begs another question. So yeah, I might be playing devil advocate. Are they doing something wrong? If they're treating them poorly, if they're treating them like prisoners, if they're not allowing them to go and pursuit of the American dream and integration and assimilation into America, then yes, we need to look into it. If not, if they are taking advantage of the taxpayer dollars that we're having to pay anyways to take care of these people, why not use it? And the other question is I'm sorry, if you're a refugee that's coming from a war-stricken place, you have a roof over your head, you've got a meal provided for you 3 times a day, and a cot where you don't have bullets whizzing over your head. So the question is are you trying to find a better living for yourself, or are you looking for somebody else to provide that for you?
That's very true. I like what you're saying that they're not being treated like inmates, and it's up to them to get out of that situation and to blend in with society and find jobs and establish their own means of income. And like you said, finding a home, finding out where they belong. Like I said, it's completely up to them. Um, But then also on the other note, when it kind of show you how quick these private prisons are to accept anyone, regardless if anyone wants them or anyone does want them, just to get a few more bucks. And those numbers, dude, they're everywhere. That's why they range between $45 a day to 100. And I think Texas is closer to 100 from what I've heard, from just being locked up in like Williamson County and shit like that. I know Travis is like one. I heard Travis is really bad when it comes to the meals and stuff like that. But it's not the same. It's only like what is it, like county jails, but like prisons, they're not as bad. I know prisons are a little bit more lenient when it comes to what they're doing with like commissary and stuff like that. Yeah.
So the fundings that you're talking about in Travis and Harris are going to be local governments and local law enforcement and local politicians. So the people that you have to talk to directly are going to be your community, your neighbors. Because if you're not going to stand up in arms and vote those crooked politicians and crooked wardens out, then we're really running in circles, crying about it and not doing anything. But no, you're right. The difference in care in a penitentiary is a lot higher standards because you're looking with federal money, but you're also looking at the difference in the criminal population. That also brings up the question, if there's these prisons that are having the ability to offer these places with refugees, does that say something to the crime rate in Texas? That it is lower, or that we just have a massive amount of prisons? That could be something that we can look up and research, because if it shows that we've got less criminals in our prisons, then I'm all for it. Let them get their bucks somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say, anytime anything's privatized, they can run freely with the rules, and so regulations need to be made. 17 cents per meals, that's bullshit. We can provide more than that.
Yeah, it's shitty ass meals, man.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right, man. So speaking of, I guess, prisons and jails, there's a journalist that was going on a little rant, I guess you say, about the possibility of Donald Trump being assassinated. Now, he's basing this off of a movie from 1983 called The Dead Zone, where a gentleman has visions of the current person running for president leading to, like, another war, and starting a nuclear war, starting a nuclear war. So off of that, he was saying, like, some of the enemies Trump has made over the past few months, starting with talking about the Hispanic people and, the whole El Chapo, whether that was real or not, who fucking knows. But then, that wasn't where it didn't end there. Then you got the Muslims. But then, whether if it would be ISIS or just some random Muslim coming in just being an asshole, well, not an asshole, but, killing Trump. A buddy of mine brought up the possibility that is assassination still needed? Because the last person to be assassinated, like presidential, was what, JFK, right? Wasn't there another attempt that wasn't successful? So President 2 after him, I can't remember the name. I'm gonna have to check it out. Ford, something I can't remember. But he did. He just.
It was Ford.
Yeah, but he like got nicked in the arm or the shoulder or some bullshit like that, right? That came in handy that fucking time. So, shit.
What about John F. Kennedy?
Well, he died
Assassination
after
attempt.
JFK. I think I could be wrong. I know there's a failed one for sure. We're
Definitely do.
yeah,
Maybe two.
yeah,
There was one.
And then you got Lincoln.
yeah. Lincoln, yeah. Okay. So with that, they're saying that the possibility is there. Now my buddy was going on saying that with social media and everyone like being social warriors, is assassination still needed? Because there's people who get their reputation destroyed, just like the lady we talked about who is kind of a bitch to the Uber driver. So do you think we could destroy Trump's reputation and his financial income by being social justice warriors, or do you think some people won't see it that way and rather just put him out? if that makes sense.
All right. So one thing that I've started to notice about Trump is that he's a lot like O.J. Simpson. He thrives off of being popular. Like that's his fuel. That's what he goes off of. That's why he's constantly saying that he's up in the polls. He has to be up in the polls. If he's not up in the polls, he says something ridiculous so that he's back up in the polls, right? So I think for him to lose all that would be his own self-incrimination. That would be his downfall. Because someone like Trump, let's get real, he's probably not ever going to do any time for anything that he ever does. He's just got too much money, you know? But, yeah, I feel like the only way to get to him is just to show him that that we don't like him, you know? And, of course, there are people out there that like him now, but I feel like if you really want to get to him to where it hurts, he just needs to know how much people don't really like him.
Just to piggyback off what you said, you see, just like even in the last event, he can't take being booed. He agitates. And that's why he lashes out.
We're having technical difficulties.
Technically difficulties. Yep. So real quick, so we can make sure this thing's going on. So if y'all saw the Republican debate last night, what Mark was saying about being booed, it was kind of funny because they were trying to talk, and him and Ted Cruz, and who was the other dude? Was it Rubio? They were like talking over one another, like they were like siblings. Like no, let me talk. Oh, how come he gets to say this? Come on, no. And like the people who were like giving out the questions are like, yo, like please, up, come on, and dude. It sounded like a bunch of little kids bickering, dude. It was ridiculous.
It was such a clown show last night, but it finally got me to laugh because up until now I was like, man, I can't believe that these are actually politicians running for president. But after seeing last night's debate, it was pretty comical to see grown men running for president and complaining that they weren't getting enough time to talk, and they were actually throwing little fits up on stage. And I think Wolf Blitzer was the mediator of the thing, and they would pan to him, and he just kind of be like, oh, "Okay, guys, like let's get back on track." And then Cruz would be like, "Well, he said my name, I can't respond." And it was just such a mess. It was such a mess, and I couldn't believe that they were actually going on with that, and that people they were allowing that to happen. I did notice that, man, Wolf Blitzer could take some notes from Megyn Kelly on how to run a debate, because she had very strict, like, you're done talking, I'm gonna keep going, while Wolf Blitzer was just kind of like, guys, can you let me talk? Like, yeah, it was a clown show. It was a mess. Trump cannot stand to be booed. That was one thing. And Cruz and Rubio were like double teaming him. They were letting them have it.
Trump, yeah, his ego takes priority.
Yes, and one thing
Those
too.
are our future leaders right there.
Possible.
Possible future leaders, yeah.
One thing that kind of came up in this debate was Trump not releasing his IRS or his tax statements. Apparently, he's saying that he's been audited 12 out of the last 15 years or something like that, right? And which, okay, that should immediately click with everybody. If you're being audited, you're doing something wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so he says up on stage that he has been audited a lot, and he's being audited this year, and which is why he's not releasing his tax statements. Which, if you're running for president, apparently it's required that you release these tax statements, right? So Mitt Romney, the 2012 Republican nominee, actually was calling Trump out on it this past week, and so it surfaced at the debate last night. And Trump doesn't want to release him because he claims that he's being audited, and whenever he's done being audited, he'll release him. And then so on CNN today, they were calling him out. He was having a press conference in Fort Worth, and the reporters were like letting him have it. They were like, "Well, we checked with our resources, and the IRS has nothing stating that you can't release your tax documents if you're being audited. So what's holding you back? And once again, he was getting flustered because he was getting called out on his bullshit, and he just like put his foot down. And he's like, "Look, I'm gonna tell this so that everybody understands. I'm not releasing anything until I'm done being audited." So I think it was just funny that so I think he's finally got something that can surface as something bad towards him. Finally, so I'm kind of hoping to see how that all plays out. So
I'm so surprised that he's just now being called out on anything.
yes,
How over the fucking many years that he was, fucking hosting that show and doing all kinds of other shit, and he was all over the media. How is something just now fucking?
That's my biggest thing. Like have you seen any campaign ads that go against Trump? One. I wonder what they're waiting on.
I can't think of one.
It's
I
crazy.
cannot think of one.
People don't want to judge him by his past, and so they just
They should be judged by their past.
No,
Every past president has been judged whether they
Exactly.
fucking smoked weed in high school or not. Like, that's exactly how they should be judged. Their fucking past character is gonna show how their future character is gonna be.
I
So
completely agree, but that's the only excuse. I think that I mean, why else? I mean, would people listen to his bullshit? I mean,
Right.
damn.
right.
Another thing that they brought up on the debate last night was apparently Trump founded something called the Trump University, and now he's being taken to like civil court because apparently he owes like the people who went to this college like $36,000 a piece or something like that, or like the tuition was like $36,000, and people are suing him because something happened. I don't know, and so yeah, they're saying that. That this court case is supposed to happen in the summertime, and how are we actually going to nominate someone for the Republican Party if he's going to have court during all of his campaigning? So it's starting to pile up. Finally, people are starting to dig into him a little bit, and he doesn't like it. And another thing, sorry, I can go off about Trump all day long. So there was a reporter from Telemundo on the panel last night asking questions, and she brought up how the whole wall thing and how Trump claims that Mexico is going to pay for it, and then she had a quote from the president of Mexico now. I think his last name's Fox, President Fox or something like that. Anyways. Okay, yeah. So the ex president is saying that like pretty much told Trump that nobody's gonna pay for that fucking wall or something like that, and Trump got so upset that they used the word fuck, and he was like, I cannot believe that somebody would go on national television and say that vulgar word and everything, and people are like, I just can't believe that he's saying stuff like that because of look at everything that he said so far in the past 8 months. And he really has the audacity to say, I cannot believe... You mean to tell me that Trump has never said the word fuck before?
He has no shame.
Yes.
Utterly no shame.
Yeah. What did he call a couple women on his show before? Some fat, disgusting pigs and bitches and a couple things. Yeah, a couple vulgar words came out of his mouth in the short amount of time that he's been campaigning. So what the fuck?
Horrible human being. I mean,
Absolutely terrible. And like, you need to hear him. He's like, if I were to say something like that, it'd be all over the headlines. It'd be a big scandal and everything and that's why I just never use bad words like that. And I would just like sit there with my mouth open. I'm like, are you really fucking saying that?
Never.
Are you really saying that right now?
Never, not Trump.
Oh my god, man! It's just a clown show, and yet he keeps winning. He keeps winning states. Man, what a fucking prick. Another thing he was saying, or that I forget her name, but the Telemundo mediator, she was saying how Trump was bragging on the fact that he won a lot of the Nevada Latino vote, but of the Republicans that voted in the caucus this past week, only 8% were Latino, and then of that 8%, he won 48% of that, which is a little less than half. So if you put it in perspective, he won like 3.7% of Republican votes, and he's like he thinks he's doing well, and he says that Hispanics love me and everything, And the commentator was like, but these polls are not accurate. They're pulling from a very small pool of percentages, and he just doesn't have it, man. It's just okay. It's
He's based on manipulation. That's
Yeah.
how he has to represent himself.
yes, and it's like no facts at all.
He
It's
just
actually called fascism, and the reason he's so popular is because he's got this ability to take political ambitions and turn people's frustrations into political ambitions. So where people might say that they're not socialist or isolationist or something like that. When someone says, I want to build a wall and I want to keep out every dirty bastard that's not American, that sounds pretty damn good to everybody who thinks like that. And the problem is secretly a lot of Americans think like that. So the problem is he gets a lot of those votes, or he gets a lot of that attention. And the problem is a lot of those attention that he's getting them is in rural countries or areas, which brings into question the type of media attention that they're seeing on television, or the type of knowledge that they have when it comes down to their education. Are they seeing one side of the story? Are they being told one thing, or are they coming from the cities where they have extreme facets to internet and education and media to see multiple sides of the angle? So I mean, yeah, there's no surprise as to why he's popular right now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think I read somewhere that a lot of the younger people, we have a lot more access to a lot more different media outlets, whereas some of the older generations, they grew up watching one station, and that's all they know, and that's all that they choose to believe. They don't want to partake in anything that they might not feel accustomed to, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I totally see how Trump is winning. I just, at the same time, can't grasp that there's still that much,
I think that's why he goes untouched with whatever he says. People don't care what he says because they think the way he thinks, and that's all they think about, and that's what they want as a president. Like, one of the things that Rubio was going after him for in the debate was, he was like, explain a plan. He said, I'll give you my time to let you talk about your health plans, lay it all out. And he just kept stumbling. Oh, we're gonna have yeah, I know people, we're gonna do this. It's just a whole bunch of talking up, and there's nothing laid out, and the people don't care. All it goes back to is, oh, I like how he acts. He doesn't take any bull, and that's just what it is.
Yeah, I have well, actually, my girlfriend's mom actually is the one who I've heard this from, but she says that she doesn't think that Trump would do that bad as a president. She likes everything that he says. She gets a laugh out of it. I think that's more or less where she's coming from. She enjoys him, she enjoys watching him speak and stumble on himself and act like an idiot like he does, and hearing all the ridiculous shit that comes out of his mouth. She thinks that it's talking straightforward, which really it's not. It's
It's
but yeah, she claims the same thing. She says that, if he were to be put in as president, that he would put the right people around him, which, is that really what we're voting for? Are we voting for their committee, or are we voting for them?
that's what I was gonna say. This is the face of the country, so it's not about I like what he says. It's more about having that composure when you're under the gun, and that's something he can't do. And he's also easily swayable. He doesn't care if one person recommends anything, he'll just take it because he hasn't been in politics. He has no background in helping. They ask him where was he at 4 years ago when they're dealing with serious issues, and he was on his reality TV show. So it's crazy how big he is. It's scary.
Just a thought before we move on. If you look at Trump, I feel like his answers are always like, "What are we gonna do about immigration? We're gonna kick them out. We're gonna build a wall. We're gonna get things done." And when you really look at it, he doesn't really have an explanation or an idea on how that's gonna get done. And the people that I feel that are kind of potentially going against him, not all people, obviously, but since the answer is just so obvious that hey, we're gonna get things done, it seems like the answer's so clear and so easily done when it's really not. They just see an answer that just seems like it's gonna fit and get the job done, and just like they don't really care to look any further into it. They just feel reassured by what they're being told. Really, you got to be careful for those kind of people, man, because like you said, they're easily manipulated. Get into their minds and fuck with them, really.
Yeah, I think he's really broad. No details.
Exactly,
at all.
exactly. Yeah, and people
So,
support
there's no
that.
plan.
Like, what? I mean, I'm not gonna go into war with somebody who's like, "Yo, let's just go charge in." Like, whoa, what? Like, no. Like, what's the plan? Like, what are we gonna do? What's the
It depends on
details?
phrases like "I know
Yeah.
people."
Yeah, I know people too. I know y'all. Like, what
it's
the fuck
like-
does that mean?
That means nothing.
So on CNN earlier, he had that press conference in Fort Worth. It was the main focus of it was that he got Chris Christie to endorse him, but he was getting so once again, like I said, those reporters were tearing him apart, and they were bringing up the taxing again, and he was like. Trump was saying, "Oh well, I know so many billionaires. I've got so many billionaires that are friends and everything, and none of them get audited. But yet, when I get audited, I tell them that, and they don't even know what audited means. I'm like, really? You have billionaire friends that don't have a clue what the word audit means from the IRS, and it's just his. I can't stand the man.
Cavalier attitude. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those billionaire friends who don't even know what the fuck audit means are going to be helping him run our country. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, he says he knows people. He's gonna have the best people, so it's anybody's guess as to who he's gonna appoint. But scary times, man. It really is. Like, I just really hope that. So the Super Tuesday thing is coming up, and I just really hope that he loses a few of those states. I know he's neck and neck with Cruz right now here in Texas, which is the biggest prize out of next Tuesday. So if whoever wins Texas gets a lot of delegates.
I saw. They were doing like a report card
Okay.
for all the candidates.
Uh-huh.
Did you see that?
Mm.
It was a picture of all the countries, and Trump got like a lot of Fs. A couple of
Countries
Ds.
or states?
Countries.
Really?
Syria was on there.
Oh, of course.
A couple other stuff.
Yeah.
Countries. I mean.
Yeah, I know. Like a few weeks back, that a few European countries were claiming that they were going to try and ban him from their countries. So what kind of situation is that going to put us in as a country if our own allies are banning our president from entering their country? Like, it's just going to put us in a shithole, man. Like, and then he's so trigger happy. I can only imagine what kind of shit that we're going to get into if he does become president, and then we can't even call on our allies because they banned him from their country.
Bernie Sanders, according to the report card thing I saw
Uh-huh.
on Facebook, he had a better rapport with all the countries.
Yeah, and I mean that's what it is. I mean, like, of course you have to stand strong and everything, but at the same time you have to make sure that you're communicating and like finding like midway points to agree with other countries. Like, you can't always just have it your way.
What do you think about Bernie Sanders?
I mean, I'm a little biased towards him because I've been following him the most ever since I found out that he was running for president last year. But I know as far as like his foreign affairs, I guess I know he's very like war is the last thing that we should do as far as any conflict and stuff like that. But I mean, like, okay, so you're
It
shaking
sounds
your
like
head.
he's gonna get assassinated
He's gonna get assassinated. How come?
because he's trying to stop war.
Well, I think he's saying that war should be the last
Option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, so like you should try everything in your power to not go to war. Like, why? Some people are saying
That's ideal, but I think a lot of countries, a lot of companies
Uh-huh.
within the United States
Uh-huh.
that are profiting from the war
Hmm.
are gonna not want that.
Well,
to
see,
happen.
I know he's trying to like deregulate all that stuff if he comes into office. So I feel like maybe we'll have more. He'll have more say, or at least more sway, I guess, into how he chooses like where to go with conflicts.
Unfortunately, on that note, even if Bernie Sanders does get elected, the House is controlled by majority Republicans, and the president can't do anything without help with Congress. But you're right. He's definitely going to try to do a lot of that. Bernie Sanders has got some pretty good ideas about what he wants to do. The problem is Bernie Sanders might be a decent man, and we might not find any flaws in his background or any malicious intent into what he's doing currently. But the very nature of a socialist is a democratically elected leadership that is equally measured by all people, which is an instance, very easy form of communism. And as much as that might not be what he's trying to put into plan right now, it leaves the door open for a lot of leeway for other situations. Currently, we are extremely socialist. We have a lot of policies and programs in place that already look like that, but and me personally, it would feel a little bit too equalization of everything. There's a division in power for a reason, and a hierarchy that's designed by the people. And I think one design isn't going to change it like that as easily as he might think. Especially if he doesn't have the backing of the Congress to do it. I think he'd find a lot of opposition when it comes to signing bills.
So doesn't that balance itself out? He wants to be democratic socialist, but then Congress will probably be the balance where he wouldn't really pass all the bills that he wants to pass, because according to Congress. So he wouldn't be a bad president. I think he would.
I hear exactly what you're saying, but you
Yeah.
also have to remember at the end of this year, 293 seats out of 435 are Republican, and they are up for grabs. So the House could take a drastic swing. So, but no, it could take a total change in the way that it is. So it could be continuous Republican or power, or it could get swayed towards the Democratic Party, and in that place, Bernie Sanders would have no problem streamlining his initiatives. And the difference between president being challenged as an incumbent versus losing, it's a lot harder to come in the second time and beat a sitting president than to beat somebody who hasn't, to run against somebody who hasn't. So if Bernie Sanders wins one, he'll win two.
No, that's a important variable that I didn't take into account.
Well, I think that's the thing. A lot of people are really riled about who's going to be our president. But in reality, unless you're Obama, who signs a lot of executive orders, you can't do anything without the power of the Senate and the House. And unless you take your politics seriously and your American freedoms as a voter diligent, you got to go out and you got to revoke those congressmen as well.
But can we really blame Obama for doing so many executive actions when the Senate, not even an hour after Scalia died, that they claimed that they wouldn't
Move forward.
They wouldn't move forward with anybody that Obama elected. Like, not even an hour after the guy dies, they already said that they weren't gonna pass through anybody that Obama, and that they claim that it's unconstitutional for Obama to even do this in his last year of office. Is it really so hard to believe that he does all this stuff with the executive orders when he's got a Congress that literally doesn't want to do anything with him? Is it
What's stopping Bernie Sanders from doing the same thing, or the next president?
Well, I'm just trying to say, like, we should make sure that we're voting for our president, but we should also, look at who we're going to put in Congress. I mean, if we're going to have people that are just going to cross their arms and just vow to not do anything with our president, then, like, okay, you have your beliefs and everything, but what are you doing here if you're not even going to try and work with our president? Like, what's the point?
No progress is made at all. And
Yeah.
according to the GOP debate last night, I don't think any of them will have a chance. Like,
What's up?
No, go ahead, go ahead. What do you have to say, Seabass?
I think when you're talking about on that line, if you don't have a Congress that works with you, I'm sorry, that's your fault. Because you bought an election and you managed to get into office, doesn't mean that you get to be the king and dictator for 8 years. So changing executive orders and passing them without the work of Congress, whether or not you don't have any allies in Congress, would be a question as to why did you run for office when your Congress was controlled by enemies and you knew that you were going to have to face extreme opposition and potential comments of unconstitutional executive actions when you didn't have help in the Congress.
But is it accurate to say that he bought an election when you had just said that it's hard or it's easy?
I'm not saying buy an election as in the money. I mean, as in you bought the hearts of the mass people who had the electoral votes and stuff like that. Granted, you might have won an election, you might have got that power, that seat, but were you really thinking about the overall grand scheme of how our Constitution and our country works? It's not just to say that you're the President of the United States, it's to say that you're the President of the United States that work under the executive branch of the Constitution. There's the legislative, and then there's the judicial. So if you're not going to follow within those lines of boundaries, I'm sorry, you're not deemed an adequate officer of the law or governing. You're coming in and saying, because I'm not getting any help from the branches that are deemed to keep me in line, I'm going to bypass those branches. That in itself is what those divisions of branches were designed for. Granted, some of the things that he might have done might have been necessary, but the problem is, does the ends justify the means? And I'm sorry, they do not. If I say to create a cure for cancer, I'm going to genetically modify a cancer cell and massively infect everybody and see who's got an immunity to it and create an antidote from it. Yeah, it might save the overall population, but does it really work? You know?
So I was curious while you were just talking, and I'm looking on the presidency.ucsb.edu, and according to them, the total number of executive actions that Obama has passed is 231. George W. Bush 291, Clinton 364, Reagan 381, Carter 320. We have to go all the way back to Ford to have a president that has passed less executive actions or orders than Obama. So,
yeah, you're absolutely right, and I knew that was going to come back around. The difference is that executive actions on a scale of what they changed and how they influence the population and laws. So the executive actions that you're talking about are totally accurate. During the time of Bush presidencies, we were engaged in operations abroad that were executive ordered. You have actions that were done in states that had no influence on law, but did not have a direct right to proceed with. So executive actions were obtained. I think mostly what I was talking about when you're talking about the conflict with the Constitution and the division of labor is defining a population as criminals or segregating a population into divisions, which causes them a negative effect to their pursuit of happiness. And what I mean by that is, for instance, his executive order on gun control, how nobody who is on a no-fly list should be able to own a gun. I currently work in an airport. I own a store in an airport. If you are being belligerent in my store, I can have TSA remove you and you will be put on a no-fly list. It is that easy to get on one. There's no stipulations as to what puts you on a no-fly list, so there's no stipulations as to what a regime, and when I mean regime, I mean a government who has no care for your thought process or freedom, but rather your servitude. So when a regime has that ability to put you on a list and control your movement, much less your freedom, your Second Amendment right to carry a gun, that's scary. when Obama puts an initiative to put an executive order to remove the ability to own a firearm because you are a veteran and you claim a disability for serving your country and fighting in a war. That is mind-boggling. Over 65,000 veterans were served papers saying that they were no longer legally allowed to carry firearms because they go to the VA and claim disability. So, I mean, that's a little side tangent, but that's what I mean. The laws and the executive orders that Obama has put into place consistent to laws that affect the human the American population is different. Yeah. So 239, yeah, that's about right compared to 291. But his direct influence on law and what classifies you and what puts you in a stipulation is a much higher division than what you might think.
Threatens our rights that the Constitution grants us. And I think he ultimately like doesn't really. What I'm trying to say is like.
I mean, it's hard to think about, you know, but you know when you're talking about Congress, it changes a lot, you know. So you gotta think about Bernie Sanders. Is he gonna have Democrats in office or is he gonna have Republicans? You know, if we get Trump, are we going to elect congressmen, Democrats or Republicans? So you got to think about it. You know, so I mean, it just depends.
Yeah. I think overall we're working on two extremes here, though. So it's like, you know, a lot of people are pushing for Trump on the Republican side. That's scary in itself. But he's on the extreme side of the Republican side. And also, you know, most of the people on the Democrat side are pushing for Bernie. So it's two extremes here, really. You know, you've got the full-on Democrat, almost socialist type, and then you've got fucking Trump leading the Republican side. It's just overall a scary run. Fucking in general, it's a scary year, man. It really is.
Alright, man. So, let's go ahead and move on. I guess we'll go on to the Adderall. So, this gentleman breaks down that Adderall is just one extra molecule added different from meth. And, you know, that's usually given to kids who can't, you know, like ADD and ADHD, things on the line of that. And it's kind of a scary thought. And parents kind of give it to the kids thinking that they're helping it. I've known some kids who've taken it. They kind of almost become like zombies almost, depending on the kid. Not everyone, obviously. So I think that's interesting that the public's eye is, hey, that's fine. And I'm not saying, hey, let's make meth legal. Like, that's definitely not the purpose. But I just think it's very interesting that just because it's coming from a pharmacy or from it's approved by the government, that we're still allowing it. Now, I looked up some of the statistics on people who die yearly. So 400,000 people die yearly on cigarettes, 100,000 from alcohol, 15,000 from meth and painkillers. I thought it'd be a little bit more than that. That's not a lot. I mean, it is a lot. Any death is a lot. But here's where it kind of gets interesting, man. Only 400 for heroin. Yeah, you think it would be more than that, right? I want to look into that more deeply as well. 200 for cocaine, 75 for X, and 0 for marijuana. No deaths for marijuana. So I think it's interesting, man. And I know that Bud can take a lot of these things that I mentioned off the list of having to be produced. I mean, it would still be produced, but I think people would choose, I guess, a somewhat healthier alternative rather than these nasty chemicals, whether it be made in a garage or a lab.
You didn't even mention caffeine, tobacco.
Oh no, yeah, I said cigarettes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, 400,000 a year. Yeah. But caffeine kills people, yeah.
Yeah, it stops your heart, and so yeah.
And you do become addicted to caffeine in a way.
Yeah.
That's
It's
true.
a stimulant, yeah, for sure.
anyone else here, after you eat something, do y'all need something sweet?
I do.
You know that has to do with it's like as a kid we were after. Did you have a lot of dessert when you were a kid? Like after?
I think so. I think I was naturally thin, so I
Yeah.
ate whatever I want.
So what I heard was that we train our body like it's a habit, and our stomach gets used to it. So after we get food, our stomach's like, well, where's the dessert? We need something sweet. Because I know every time that I eat, dude, I have to have something sweet. If not, dude, I'll walk around like, fuck, I need something. Peanut butter. I'll go get a scoop of peanut butter. Or, dude, the other day I had chocolate chips, and I was just eating chocolate chips while I was playing games, man, because I needed something sweet, man. It's crazy. It's
For
ridiculous.
me, I'm just snacking all day. I have like a drawer dedicated to like junk food. And
Hell yeah.
Well, yeah.
you know, it's not even just after every
Yeah.
meal. And I know it's unhealthy, but
I think that's just the American culture. We have, dinner and then we have a dessert afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Problem is they started showing studies that sugar increases the growth of cancer and tumors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
large amounts.
Well, complex sugars are the hardest to break down.
Yeah.
Like I said, those complex sugars are hard to break down. You get those in your body and you start getting mutations along with them. It's even harder to break down. So yeah, it makes sense.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So, just a show of hands, how many of us took like Vyvanse, Adderall, any of those, like ADHD? No, nobody. I'm the only. Oh no, we got three. We got three here.
Well, to clarify, do you mean prescribed because you had
Yes. Yes.
Okay, see, no.
Yes.
No.
No. No. Nobody was prescribed. I was the. Okay. We got two here. So, I'll tell y'all right now, dude. I fucking absolutely hate Adderall, Vyvanse, all those things. Like they're literally just stimulants to me. It's the same as it's just.
My buddy called Vyvanse. Like the top of the line. Like it's top notch fucking medicine when it came to like ADD and all that bullshit.
It is. It really is. And I was prescribed Vyvanse anywhere from I believe 20, 25 to like fucking 80 milligrams. So like quite a bit of Vyvanse in my days. And I'll tell y'all right now, dude, I fucking hate that shit. It is absolutely the worst. And I had so many friends who would try to buy it off of me, fucking addicted to that shit, like were willing to pay $5-6 a pill, and like it's really ridiculous. I personally had ADHD, and I believe I had mild ADD as well, so which personally I think those are just like medical words that they thought up of basically fucking kids being kids. Like I think kids are gonna
so chill. I mean,
yeah, it makes you a zombie. So I think personally that they were basically just fucking trying to prevent kids from being kids. I think it's a babysitter.
Well, here's the thing, and Eric brought a good point, was the habits we develop as kids and how we control ourselves, and we're very free
Mm-hmm.
kind of personality wise. But the problem is the medical industry and how they distribute drugs and how they sell them. I mean, they're doing it like it's candy. They don't care if you have a mild case of ADD or a heavy case. They're going to prescribe you something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it's become. We've been treating every like mild cases as heavy cases, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a big difference. Somebody with a mild case of ADD, they can control that through behavior therapy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Medicine's not needed.
Yeah. Nick.
I was just gonna say the doctor tried to get my mom to get me and my brother both on medication growing up.
Yeah.
And she refused to, and I felt like it helped me out.
Yeah.
Because now I can tell, like I'm extremely ADD and ADHD. I mean, I can just tell when I'm not focusing. Like I just stand up and go walk away from whatever I'm doing.
Exactly.
And go do something else real quick, then come back, and it helps me focus. Or I'll just
Exactly.
listen to music or something, just kind of distract me a little bit and just kind of step away.
Yeah. I'll be completely honest. I think that I did get a little bit of almost dependency on it because of it made me focus. It made me like extremely concentrated on whatever I was doing, like lightning speed. So, I mean, not being on it anymore, I've been off of it for probably 3-4 years now, and like I've noticed like immediately it was a change. Like I couldn't focus on my own. I had to have that to focus. So I really think you do gain a dependency on these drugs, and I think they're totally not right to be giving kids, because it's like he said, dude, it's meth. It's just something to keep you concentrated and focused on whatever you're doing. So, I mean, I don't think it's right, honestly. I don't think that any of these drugs should be around, personally. I think they're babysitters. I think that basically a lot of parents give them to their children just to calm them down.
I totally agree. I see what you're looking at, and it's abused and how they're giving it out. But I've also seen a side in life where people have a very serious case of these diseases, and holy shit, you might need. I'm not saying put them on drugs for your whole life, but I personally I believe drugs are here to help people out. It doesn't matter what it is: heroin, meth, cocaine. It's all there to help people out. These things are from nature.
I saw your post. Yeah.
The problem is we abuse them. America is the biggest abusive people on the planet.
We abuse everything.
We abuse the shit out of stuff.
Everything.
And see, that's our problem. It's not the drugs. It's us. It's,
Like you were saying, dude, a spoon doesn't make someone fat. Like it's the person. Fucking, what was it? Money doesn't make people greedy. Like it's the fucking, it's human nature.
Guns don't kill people.
Yeah,
It's people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, dude. I mean, seriously, I think it's a big problem, and I think mainly what it comes down to is those major drug corporations that are in control of it. They don't, like you said, they're giving it out like candy. They don't give a shit what the side effects are, what they're causing, as far as, like, even, for me, it came down to like a family fucking crisis almost. Like, I had to have those fucking stupid pills. Like, so.
I have a personal experience. My mom was on medication for her heart, and after her surgery, they gave her blood thinners and pain medication and all this other stuff. And she was bedridden for like a couple months and didn't seem like she was getting better. Well, we go to find out that her doctors were giving her too much medicine, stuff that wouldn't mix, and it was actually killing her slowly.
Yep.
And so they had to take her off this medicine. As soon as they did that, she was fine.
Yep.
I'm like, this is just a fucked up world.
Yep.
Man. My God.
What's crazy is that we're also looking at we're talking about, or at least I brought up the amount of people that die, but then you also got to look at it in another light, that the amount of people that are addicted, the amount of people that are selling it and getting caught up in jail, come on, man, there's probably kids out there who are addicted who are stealing their grandmas or uncles, cancer medicine, or whether it be, a broken arm from the little brother or older brother or sister. And what's even worse about that, man, you can even go further, is that addiction affects the family just as much as it affects the person who's addicted. And unfortunately, man, it's a ripple effect, because it's not only affecting the family, then it's affecting whoever that family interacts with for that day. And it continues, and people act out on it, dude. It's a trip, man. All from really addiction in general. Like I was saying, like all of these things can be taken away from legalization of marijuana. And like y'all were addressing earlier, there is a lot that has to be done from viewpoints of it's going to be medicinal or recreational, like you're going on about if you get pulled over and you're under the influence, like what we'll do. Personally, I think it'd be ridiculous. I'm pretty sure people here have driven under the influence of multiple poisons and drinks and things of that nature, and it's all up to the person. It's all up to the individual knowing their limits, things of that nature. So let's go ahead and go on. I think it was just interesting to see things are coming to light. Go on.
Yeah, kind of segueing off of that, what do you think about sodium? Do you think sodium should be, sodium should have warning labels on menus for restaurants? One judge in New York City is requiring sodium warnings on restaurant menus.
On like specific items or just
on high sodium items? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to know, or it wouldn't hurt. But you said it would be a law?
It would be required.
I think you kind of know when you're eating
Yeah, true
How
that.
much?
Yeah,
You would
true
know how
that.
much?
Yeah, I was gonna agree with that. I mean, like, I don't know, man. It's sort of hard to say, sort of hard to swallow, but people get a little bit too sensitive nowadays, and I think you gotta like realize whenever you're crossing that line of like being safe and being sensitive, because personally, I think that would be being too sensitive to things. I know my brother like sort of had a problem with sodium in his younger days. He like had way too much sodium, and he was probably 17, 18, and had fucking high blood pressure and shit like that. So, you know, it was definitely not looking too good. It looked like he had a sodium kind of dependency almost. So, yeah, I think it is sort of a problem, and for most people it would be a problem. But if it is a problem for you, dude, like, how hard is it to ask?
Think
you know?
about a New York lifestyle. You're on the go every time. You're
Mm-hmm.
always hot dog cart here,
Right.
Pizza place there. High sodium. I mean, you're always getting sandwiches. You know what I'm saying, with corned beef or pastrami. High sodium meats. You know.
Well, then, you know, let's like leave it up to the local governments and see what they think about it. I think
Yeah,
personally
that's
that would be the
exactly
best
what's up,
option. Yeah,
This
just
judge is local.
right, right.
Well, if you're gonna do that, where
Yeah.
you gonna draw the line at? Because
Right.
sugar is just as bad too, and too much of it can cause
Mhm.
diabetes. So it's the same
Yeah.
thing. How many warning labels do you want to see? Also, think about like places, bakeries and stuff that specialize in sweets, and they have to have a ton of warning labels on everything if this law was put in place.
It could
Just the
Yeah.
affect
same.
business. It could affect
Cause
business.
harm to your health. I
Right.
mean, like, seriously?
Right.
I mean, McDonald's is not
I
going to
think
allow
what
that to
they're-
process because they're going to be like having to stamp a big old warning label on front of it, going
On
"Oh,
everything."
Please don't eat my McDonald's fries because they're going to kill you in 5 years. They don't want to put that on their marketing.
Right.
Yeah, it would affect business, I would think, as well. But I think what they're going for is, according to the article, they're going for information, more information, so you can make it more informed choice.
I
And
think
so
a
this is,
nutrition.
for the,
Sorry.
looking out for the public, I think.
A nutrition label is just fine. Put it on the boxes so they know. But like a warning label specific to.
Let's say warning label. Yeah. So you're probably right.
You know how when you go eat like buffalo wings, it has like little like chili peppers next to how hot the buffalo wings for these high sodium content salt shakers. I have little salt shakers like 1 or 2, 3 like high salt.
4.5.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like half a salt shaker. It'd be a trip, man. It'd be a trip.
Oh man, this one's got 5 salt shakers on it, man. I better go with the other one. Yeah, like I said, I think it's. Yeah, I
Call
just.
this the slug killer.
Like I said, I think it's just that's getting a little too sensitive for my taste, anyways. I think, you know, if you have problems with high blood pressure and high cholesterol and stuff like that, then go ahead and ask the waitress before you buy it. You know, otherwise, like I said, leave it up to the government. Leave it up to your local government.
I think that's how it was before. Ask the waitress or ask the chef.
Right.
But then they'll be like, you know.
Yeah,
you
but
know,
there's
they just
always
be
in
like,
every
you know.
restaurant you're supposed to have. I think it's actually one of the requirements. You
You're
have
actually
to
right
have
for the
a
recipe. Actually, that's
yeah.
true.
You have to have
Well, this
some sort of
this mandate starts March 1st in New York City.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's-
Then how, at that point, how are you going to be able to regulate that as well? You're going to get into the problem. You got a warning label on salt, and this guy at my Mickey D's over here just put 17 shakes of salt instead of the 14 that it called for. You know, so. Well, I mean, like, how are you going to be like, well, this fry is super salty? I don't think this is 4 salt shakers. I think this is 6 salt shakers. You know, so
I
the
think-
ridiculousness is just borderline on what's that movie called from where they're like all stupid in the future?
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. You know, it's like ugh, the plants they crave electrolytes. I mean, come on, man. You're going to Mickey D's. You know it's gonna be it's gonna be super salty. You're buying a freaking pastrami on a cart in New York, bro. You're not going to Atkins, bro. Come on, think about it.
No, and what that's exactly showing what we need to focus on: human behavior, because that's discipline, and That's that's what it really needs to come down to. Not trying
Yeah.
to change laws into putting salt shakers on shit. That yeah.
Kind of saying like the worker who put too much salt in the fries. So kind of like going off that on employees who can't do things right at fast food restaurants. So in Seattle, they kind of went on with the $15 an hour for the fast food workers. Now, this is it was an article based off someone who was looking into it. The statistics could be altered somewhat, so do take that with a grain of salt. But I did find it interesting, and I'll of course look more into it. But based from his findings, and he said he's open to anyone coming with any other theories of what could be the reason for this, or if it's just a coincidence. But from his finding, he's saying that the employment has fallen more than 11,000, or more than 11,000 people have lost jobs. Fucking completely off the thing. And then off of that, the job rate has decreased, and it's also he was going on. It's the worst job decrease since the recession. So we'll go off of that.
Right, I totally want to kick this one off. So let me give you a little background. I'm Seabass. I run a retail business. It's called Brookstone. We sell a whole bunch of stuff out of there, and I'm the manager there. And it's ridiculous to think that these people who work at a fast food restaurant expect to make $15 an hour for something that in my salary, that would be about $4 less than what I make for running a multi-million-dollar store. Like, I'm sorry, when it comes down to jobs, the reason that we've got a lower decline in people getting jobs is because people see that they can go and get food stamps and welfare easy as crap and live off of that and not have to worry about it. The reason we have less people getting jobs is because we got less people having families, and less people who got families see less people who got values as to understand as to how to create and maintain that family. People are wondering why they got 5 or 6 jobs is because you can't hold down one job and maintain a family is because you got to get 5 or 6 of them. Back when I was young, my grandma was a nurse. She went to school to be a nurse. My grandpa was a cop. He went to school and he finished his education, and he was a civil servant, and he was a cop. Find something that you are going to do. Understand who you are going to be as a person. Figure out what your personality is, and then go and fucking work for your damn person. That is what you're supposed to do. I'm sorry, you're an American. You do not deserve 1 fucking cent. What you should do is you should come to me and say, sir, I will work for free to show you that I will take a job that you will pay me for. I will take an internship. Because that's what it was. It was apprentices and masters doing things like blacksmith and carpentry and auto mechanics and stuff like that. Salesmanship, customer service. What the hell is customer service nowadays? I mean, you walk into McDonald's and you have to stand there for 15 minutes, and then you get berated for trying to buy $50 worth of stuff. I'm sorry that I'm spending money here. It's like, the concept of what a dollar is and how you obtain that dollar is so lost in this society because no one knows or wants to work for that dollar anymore. They feel entitled to something that they don't understand. Like, my mother and my grandfather, they worked for their lives. They worked for their houses. And then people that are growing up now in this society where it's supposed to be, oh, you got a trophy because you play baseball. You got a trophy because you play baseball. Let me get you a trophy. You play baseball too. No, I'm sorry. Let me get the winner a trophy because the winner played the best. What you can get is a pat on the back and say, next time, work harder to get that trophy. That's what that $15 is. You don't deserve that $15 for saying, hi, how can I help you? Let me take your money. You deserve that $15 for coming out and asking me if I would like a refill on my drink, and asking me if I can pick up this trash from your table while you're enjoying the conversation while you finish your food. That's the difference between what you should work for and what you should strive for. You don't deserve anything. You're not entitled to $15 for nothing. Work for what you got. And on the other side to that, as a manager, I've never hired in anybody under minimum wage. So when people complain about the minimum wage isn't sufficient, the minimum wage doesn't do anything. Never hired anybody in my 4 years of being a manager under minimum wage. I've actually hired most people $2 or $3 above minimum wage because that's the running standard of your competitors. Because you don't run your business against minimum wage. You run your business against your competitors. Your competitors strive where your business standardizes. So if Mickey D's can offer $15 to to their employees because they have a McDonald's on every other corner, that's why they can do it. You know, if Burger King can't afford that, I'm sorry, Burger King, make better burgers, make people want to go to your shop more. That's the difference. You know, but you're not entitled to anything until you work for it. That's why these Fortune 500 companies with all these billions of dollars, they've got something because they started out from something and they did something. You know, I'm all for helping the person that can't get their own, but if you can get your own, get getting.
Right, and I think I have to totally agree with you on that. I think it's the hard but totally fucking honest truth. You just went off on it, and I don't think anybody could have summed it up any better, honestly. But I have to say, I think it's more or less them looking out for the smaller person and fucking looking out for that guy that can't do that. And it's sad to say, but really, do people fucking need that? Do people really need that fucking big of a shoulder to lean on? I mean, I'm fucking 20 years old and I've been living on my own for about 4 years now. I've been paying my own fucking rent and doing my own shit, working my own jobs for about 4 fucking years now. So, why personally?
Why personally? Why
Just
do you have that ability to pay for your own stuff?
because I earned it.
Why did you get out? Why did you get out of your own on your own so early in life?
Because I earned it.
Because you wanted it.
Right.
Because you fought for it. You scrapped for it. Your dad didn't give you a small loan of $1 million.
Right.
You know, I'm just saying. You know, that's the difference. You know, we've got these 19, 20-year-old baby boppers that expect them to live at home with mom and expect to go to Starbucks and be like, oh, I work at my favorite place, and I'm getting paid $19 an hour. I mean, what do you provide society with? Mm-hmm. You're not providing society with anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're a doctor, yeah, $21, $30, $35 an hour, I can understand. That's a good charge. You know, but somebody who I'm just going to replace the next generation of high school kids, you're not worth but $5. You want more than $5? Show me that you're worth it.
Exactly. You have to earn your worth, and I think that's really what in general it comes down to. But apparently Seattle is thinking more about the little guy,
So if we're thinking about the little guy, are we thinking about society?
No.
So if we're a society and society needs to grow and better itself, right? Mm-hmm. So if we're going to belittle ourselves and make it easier for the weak and the degenerates to live and sustain a living, that doesn't make our society any stronger. I got a question for you. If you were to walk into a Chili's and you were to order a meal and a beverage and enjoy a couple hours there from a workforce who are guaranteed $15 an hour, or you walked into a Chili's where the workforce had to come in at $4 an hour and they had to scrap each other to get that job and make more money to better themselves, which customer service and which job would be better at their job? Because if somebody who walks in who's going to be guaranteed $15, is not going to come and refill your drink and ask you for all that stuff. But somebody who has to work for every second of it is going to bust their butt to make sure that you are the most happy person, that this business is flowing, that their job is actually getting done.
Yeah.
No, you said it just right. Just the whole thing, they're going to get their check anyway, regardless how they treat you, regardless what they do. So customer service wouldn't even matter. They just do whatever and collect check and leave. And of course, that suffers us. And what I think about it, my first job was McDonald's. I made $5.40 an hour. 3 times is what they're consider giving people, and that's crazy. And it's one of those things. I was just saying, I was on my own since I was 17, and I've been on my own and supported myself ever since. I've worked for everything that I've gotten, and it's because I wanted it. It's nothing was given to me, and I work hard for it, and I appreciate it. I don't have that mentality that I'm entitled to something that I didn't work for, and it's unfair that people think that they're entitled $15 an hour with, no education, nothing. They don't even have to work for it. They can drop out of school and say, I'm gonna work, for
McDonald's.
the easiest job. Let me find the easiest job I can find, and starting $15. That's crazy.
The only thing, like, I agree with everything that's been said so far. Like, anything. I agree with everything that's been said. I just think that if it were to ever pass, God forbid or whatever, everything's just gonna inflate with it. Like if minimum wage is $15 an hour, then everything else is just gonna go up. So that $15 is just the new $7.25.
Exactly.
So I just don't see the point of doing that. If, like, look at our history books, like minimum wage was 5 something, and before that it was probably even less than
All
that.
it's gonna do is lower the value of our currency.
Yeah. So I
That's
mean,
all
like,
it would do.
that's.
$100 service.
Yeah, so it's
I don't
I
think
just
it would lower the value of the currency, but it would cause inflation.
yeah.
And remember, there was a scene where there was a bill shown in Idiocracy, and it was like $1 million.
Yeah, it was like
right.
a $1
Yeah,
million
that's
bill.
true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it will get to that point probably.
Well, Mike, I love how you brought up the comment of without any education. The problem is this sample group that we're sitting in here and we're agreeing on these topics are people who either finished and graduated high school and went on to a vocational technician, or tried to strive in a higher educational facility, or just understood who they were and how they fit into the world and managed to find their place. The difference is that that intelligence and that education in these locations that we're talking about, in high poverty areas, in low education areas like Seattle, like California, like Chicago, like New York, high poverty areas, and it comes down to, do we know what we're capable of, or do we want to just be fed at the park like the birds?
Very well said.
Yeah, I saw a video not too long ago, and it was a lady receiving her check, or not her check, but her I guess like confirmation from welfare, and she just received a letter saying that she was going to be receiving welfare monthly from now on, and however much it was, and this lady was freaking out. I mean, I'm no joke, like, guys, I have never been so fucking excited for anything as excited as she was for this welfare check. She was
like she won the
screaming.
lottery, I guess, huh?
It was just like she won the lottery. It was literally just like she won the lottery, and she may as well have. Like, she's gonna be getting what, a fucking couple grand every month now? Like, that's pretty ridiculous. So just to think that people are getting spoon-fed so much around here is like, it feeds into the whole thing about just the level of abuse in this country. Like, people abuse everything, and the more we're spoon-fed, the more we're gonna fucking abuse everything. Like, things are the most valuable things are starting to become just the smallest, stupidest shit for us,
Something.
My whole take
Oh,
on
I
it.
was just gonna say, like, your comment, people need to find like where their niche is on that. Like, that's how I was. I started. I plumbed, and I mean, it was tough first starting off doing your apprenticeship. I literally started in a back warehouse threading pipe for 11 hours a day.
Absolutely, but you
For-
make good money as a plumber now, huh?
Yeah, well, now I managed to work my way into the office, and now I basically said I'm the middleman between the plumber and the the builder for the construction. But yeah, I mean, I worked 2 jobs starting off as an apprentice, working 72 hours, 75 hours a week. I mean, you can ask Mark, it sucked. I hardly had any of a social
But
life.
that's the thing, now
And
your
I just
neighbor-
worked for it, and
Yeah.
I appreciate everything I have now because of that.
It's like, you fight and you scrounge, you start that threading the pipes, but now there's other person that's expecting to get free college and have the taxpayer pay for it, and then come out of free college immediately, and then expect to have value in a workforce where they've never proven themselves because all they've done is seep off the system and take advantage of the social systems give free college, go do that, stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying that college is bad altogether, because free college would be good in some situations. It would give that facet to that person that would automatically want to strive to make themselves better.
Yeah.
That is what that's designed for. But the problem is if we take welfare, for example, and we make that as an example, we are going to have people who take advantage of the system.
Exactly.
And
College
run
wasn't.
wild
I
with
mean,
it.
it was an option, but I knew it wasn't for me, and that's
You
why I
know,
went into the trade I did.
Exactly. You know, is there a system for vocational plumbers? Is there a system for HVAC technicians?
Yeah.
There is. But how many fundings are there? Is it federally funded? Are my tax-paying dollars going to something like that? You know, I love America, and I'm an American Texan all the way. But you know, we should focus our education in some of the European countries. You know, where they don't understand where you're a fish. I need you to climb that tree. You're never going to climb that tree. You're a fish, dude. You know, there needs to be vocational schools. There needs to be technical avenues, because there's going to be welders in this society. There's going to be police officers. There's going to be construction workers. There's going to be all kinds of that. And if we don't take the time to further our education, further our understanding of who we are, and take that understanding and make it possible, then yeah, you're going to have people taking advantage of the systems that we try to take in place and better our country with. Like the ability to have free healthcare, or like the ability to have free schools, free colleges.
Yeah, if we put psychology in in a grade school level, and we keep kids about who they are and what their strengths and weaknesses are, then yeah, we may not have this big of a problem. I mean, we definitely need to focus on education. You're exactly right, and it's learning about ourselves as the biggest thing, and we don't learn that in school right now. We learn about other things.
Absolutely right. When a dictator takes power, what's the first thing that he cuts off? Knowledge. You know, so if we're not educated about what we're capable of, we are always going to want to be fed like birds of the park. You know, so we need to open our eyes, and you know that brings up the hard question. You know, how many of us here are registered voters? You know, if we're willing to sit and make a stance and open our voices, are we sitting and are we standing at the polls? Are we sitting and standing at the offices where we can actually make a direct influence? You know, it's one thing to ring the bell, but if you're not going to shine up, if you're not going to show up for roll call, what's the point?
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest things that I hope that we're accomplishing here, is just getting people to open their minds to other things and just educate yourself on different ideas. Just because something's different doesn't mean that it's wrong, And I just hope that this reaches somebody out there. Just know that that's kind of what we're aiming to do here, is just to open your eyes a little bit and get some different views into your head. So
Absolutely, that's the whole goal here. Whole goal here.
All right, guys. I think tonight was a good talk. We hit a lot of good points. Everyone kind of threw in. Very interesting to see viewpoints from everyone here. The world's just kind of going crazy in all aspects, whether it be the government, whether it be the people in it, or cops, groups that are coming together. It's very interesting. We live in a very time where we've been around for so long, but we're with technology being able to connect us all, we're kind of like learning all over again how to connect with people we wouldn't normally connect with, and that's where all this hate and all this confusion and division is coming from. So I believe in time will eventually grow, but for the meantime it's baby steps. It's small baby steps. So hopefully in due time this shit gets fixed out. And like somebody mentioned earlier, having you said trade schools for things like that. Like I really think the perfect society would be finding this individual's desires, wants, and aspirations in life, and helping them get to that point with education through whatever means, building a structure around them so they can meet their goal. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Very good talks. We got plenty more coming y'all's way. Peace.